Now the altitude was 2,500 meters, 7,500 feet. But it was still only part of the way to the highest point. The huge locomotive was already straining at the steepness of the slope. The peaks of the Tianshan Mountains are more than 4,000 meters high, or 12,000 feet. So there's snow on them even in midsummer. It's the water from the melting of these eternal snows that feeds the oases at the foot of the mountain, and which made possible the prosperity of the ancient Silk Road. This area is a pasture land for nomadic tribesmen who welcomed us from horseback. Haddahat Viaduct, the longest on the entire line, is about 200 kilometers or 100 miles from Turfan, and is the halfway point on the railway. Here the nomads have to bring everything they need by horse and camel from Turfan, a journey that takes them more than a week. By train, it had only taken us 4 hours. The new railway will be very important to these people. They call it the Happiness Railway. Standing in their pastures, the nomads greeted us as we looked at them from the train windows. They're of the Mongolia Torf tribe, and Man Guangqiang is a descendant of the Torf kings. At the beginning of the 17th century, they lived north of the Tianshan Mountains on the Jungal Plains. Then, as the result of tribal fighting, they left that area and drifted as far away as the Volga River in Russia. But they were unable to forget their original home. And during the latter half of the 18th century, with great difficulty, they managed to find their way home. Man would have been the 48th king since the return. The great emperor Qianlong of the Qing dynasty was trying hard just at the time to bring all the Western lands tribes under Chinese control, so he was very pleased that the Torfs had come back. He gave them 5 different pasture areas and 8 silver seals. The seals are inscribed, and they read, "To the loyal and brave king of the ancient Torf people." Words that hint at the many troubles in the tribe's history. Today the tourists still wander the Tian Shan mountains with their livestock, herd them with lassos, and live in tents. They still show the pristine vigor of the nomadic peoples of the Silk Road. Now is the time to use the camels we had brought with us from Turfan. We'd decided to try to negotiate a steep mountain pass by camel to discover for ourselves the difficulties that ancient travelers had to traverse the mountains. Part of the road was very swampy, and the camels rocked violently back and forth as they struggled to keep their footing. Camels are very good in the desert, but they're not nearly so good on a mountain, and because we had to rest them every 15 minutes, our progress was very slow. After 5 hours, we had ascended to 3,500 meters, or 10,000 feet, and passed into a region of everlasting snow. At the edge of the snowfield, the snow's always melting, so the ground is very wet and marshy. Every time a camel stumbled, we had to grab a hump to keep from falling off. We began to understand what a difficult journey it must have been for the Silk Road travelers. After 7 hours, we finally reached the pass, which is at an altitude of 3,800 meters, 12,000 feet. The wind was freezing cold, and the white peaks of the Tian Shan mountains, which must have seemed so threatening to the merchants of the Silk Road, seemed in front of our very faces. We were looking at a sight that must have impressed many travelers in the old days. After we'd returned to the pastures, we boarded the train again. We were going to make the same trip again, but this time by railway. Because it's to go to the highest point on the Nanjing Railway, the locomotive is checked with great care. The line passes through the Kuixian Tunnel. Immediately under the pass, it took us 7 hours to cross by camel. The train made the trip in exactly 30 minutes. The tunnel is more than 6 kilometers long, 3 miles, the longest tunnel on the railway. It's also the highest point and has an altitude of more than 3,000 meters, 10,000 feet. Digging the tunnel through the frozen ground and underneath a glacier was no easy task. The air temperature inside the tunnel is always below freezing, even in midsummer. The walls of the tunnel are always white with frost. As soon as we had emerged from the tunnel, we could see that the scenery had completely changed. Instead of the rocky mountains and snow-covered peaks, we saw a fertile valley spread out before us. It was the Ura-Sotai Valley. This strip of green leads from the Tian Shan Mountains to the Taklamakan Desert. On either side of the valley, steep slopes carry melting snow from the mountain to feed the river at the bottom, a river that flows all the way to the desert. As we descended into the valley, we came to a green marshy area called the Yanqi Plain, fertile land with plenty of water from the melting snow on the mountains.